I chose to go on this route mainly because I've always had a passion for cannabis. Before it was legalized and everything, and just smoking out with my bros as growing up and stuff like that, for my own medical reasons, without knowing what medical reasons were at that point.
So you go to these conventions and you display, and based on the yield that you display, people walk up, they're like, what is this guy doing differently?
So I've always stayed deep into the medical side because I believe in the medical side, and I've always seen what a medical side can do to help a human being. And I've just always believed in it that way versus a recreational, let's just get high and kick back and, whoa type of thing. Make sure you do your homework and understand who you're about to work with and what kind of knowledge they've got before you just jump into bed with someone and just dump your life savings into it. Because,
Sure.
This whole industry can either make you or break you.
What's up? I'm back for another episode of the Hustleman show. I got a very, 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 very interesting guest with me today. This is a brother that I followed remotely, distantly for a couple of years. He's got an amazing story. He's got an amazing life work, right? You would call it life work?
I call it that, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just somebody that I really felt that I needed to have on here. So I got my brother Saeed from Sai Fai. Saeed, you want to take a second to introduce yourself, tell people what you do, who you are, and what you're about?
Yeah. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm brother Saeed, also known as brother Sai Fai. I'm involved in the Canadian medical industry over in Canada. I've been a medical producer and a consultant for the last close to 8 years now. Been going through some struggles and stuff like that with the industry and legalization and stuff like that. But it's just pretty much a basic put of who I am.
Sure. So when you say industry, brother, specifically what industry are you involved in? What is? Go ahead.
The medical cannabis industry.
Medical
patients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people hear medical cannabis, it's a very, very charged subject. Cannabis in general.
Very.
Yeah, it's a very charged subject. People have emotions on both sides.
That's right.
So this brother, just for background, this brother is a Palestinian Muslim brother involved in the medical cannabis industry. So it's a very charged overall scenario, and I feel like that's the uniqueness of who you are.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So you're in this industry. My question to you is, how do you find yourself in an industry like this, and how did you migrate towards it? Plenty of industries to be in. Why this, and why did you choose to go in this route?
I chose to go on this route mainly because I've always had a passion for cannabis. Before it was legalized and everything, and just smoking out with my bros as growing up and stuff like that, for my own medical reasons, without knowing what medical reasons were at that point, because it was very gray area, very not talked about. It was very tabooed on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So back in 1999, Canada came out with a medical licensing for medical patients. So it was about 2012 when I jumped in it. And it was a very close colleague, mentor of mine, who introduced me to the program. So with my certain medical conditions that I had going on in my early 30s and stuff like that, I thought, might as well give it a try. And with giving it a try came a lot of trials and tribulations and errors and stuff like that, just trying to figure out what this plant is all about and what's going on in the industry and how to work with the industry and stuff like that. So I got my first medical license with a good associate of mine, and we copped a warehouse, and we just had no idea what we were doing, literally. And we thought it was easy as everyone thinks it is. You pop a seed into a pot and put some lights on, and magic happens.
It's a plant. You just a plant. You just grow the plant. It's simple as that, right?
There's nothing simple. Everybody thinks. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like you add a little bit of water to it, and you got some natural light, and that's it. And,
you ignore it and then let it do its thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I wish it was that easy, but no. Right. And it took us about 18 months to figure out what we were doing in this industry, and from there I started. I would start uniquely finding strains for myself, because I've always had this hashtag, different strains for different pains. And being human beings, and everyone suffers through different medical conditions and stuff like that. Not everything is for everybody. So when I started off in 2012, it would have been about 2013, close to 2014, when we finally banged off our first good crop. And from there, we were understanding.
So 2 years, brother, of like,
Yeah, pretty much.
of like experimentation.
Straight experimentation.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, man, it's just like, there was days where you just want to call it in, you know what I mean? But we fighters from the inside out. And when you're doing this for a compassionate and a passionate reason, you know what I mean? You give it your everything. And, you know, we started finding different strains and, you know, crossbreeding, and started making our own strains and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm not going to say I wish it was easy as said and the rest was over, but, you know, still till this day, it's trials and tribulations and struggles and upcomings and stuff like that. And,
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So you're 2 years into it before you get a crop that you can actually produce a yield. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not just produce a yield, but actually produce something to the medical community. You know what I mean? That wasn't on your average scale, because you know what I mean? Regardless, you grow a plant, it's still going to flower, it's still going to harvest and stuff like that. But it wasn't something that I was happy with. It wasn't something that I knew I could be completely satisfied with as myself, as a medical patient.
What about the yield early on made it not something that was good enough as a product for you to put out and put your name behind it?
It was just trials, man, trials and errors. You know what I mean? Trying to figure out the lighting, trying to figure out the nutrients, trying to figure out what medium we use, and meaning medium, like what kind of dirt we're using and what we're putting into our dirt and whatnot. So
yeah. So when you talk about the compassionate side and the medical side of this, right? I feel your energy when you talk about it. You believe wholeheartedly in this product and it's healing.
Dude.
Yeah. So let me just take a step back. Just step back with me for a minute. Before you get into this, you get your medical license that allows you to grow and develop this legally in Canada, correct?
That's right, correct.
How much of your own personal medical issues did you feel like that this rectified by using this product? Like before you decided to do that, like what gave you like the push to say, you know what, I feel like that this is gonna help better people's lives, because it better my life. So I feel like that this is a direction I want to head in. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
What I was gonna say is it takes a lot of fortitude, bro, to go in that direction in our communities. That's just real talk, right? You have to go to your friends, your family, and everybody else around you and say, I'm just putting myself in your shoes. Hey, listen to this direction I want to go. And I'm sure that people are very critical of that at times, right?
They was, you know what I mean?
I'm sure, bro. People in our community are generally critical. So it's not a stretch for you to be criticized for going in that direction. So for you to have to do that, you must really, really believe in what it is that you're doing. So
I truly do.
Yeah. So what pushed you to say, you know, I'm just going to do this because I feel like that this is the way I'm going to help myself and I'm going to help people around me. Like,
well, that was just it.
How did you get over that mental?
Wallahi, bro, because I always believe that no one can judge you but God. You know what I mean? And God knows your true intents, right? And especially in our own community and religion, people are quick to point the finger and quick to, whoa, look what this guy's up to, or look what that guy's up to. So for me, I just put all that aside, right? Because I knew what it did for me as a human being, first of all, and as a medical patient. You know what I mean? It helped with my aches, my pains, my mental health issues, and whatnot. So from there, you know, my family, they were supportive to a certain degree because they knew it was all legal and stuff like that. And they knew that the industry in Canada was a little bit different than around the world and whatnot, but still always till this day, still get criticized through the communities and stuff like that, and the masjids and stuff like that. And I just pushed myself to it because I believed in me and I believed in what it did for me as a person. Like, it's not for everybody, you know what I mean? I don't push it on just everybody type of product type of thing. But for me, I believed in what it did for me and how it helped me in tremendous ways. And throughout my years doing it, you know, turning the cannabis plant itself into oils and stuff like that, and, you know, getting higher concentrates, and seeing how it helped other people. It just kept on building a love and a passion for what I'm doing, as I'm doing something in the right direction. I'm doing something for the good of my own self and for the people in my community and the people around me.
Some of the examples of people that you ran across in the last few years. I'm sure people they receive your products, your derivatives or your products, the stuff that you're selling, right? The plants. I don't know what your
Mhm.
distribution channels are. I don't know. Is it plants, derivatives? What are the products exactly that you create?
Oh, we created, plants itself by crossbreeding, certain strains, like,
Yeah.
it's like a Kush with a sativa, making a hybrid or crossing two sativas together to get you something like super sativa, or getting two big indicas together and like breeding those out and having like a super strain type of thing, and finding different specs on the CBD levels and THC levels, and trying to just create something that I found that would help myself and other patients and stuff like that.
And all throughout that process, you're kind of chipping away at the puzzle. You're figuring it out.
Always.
Yeah, you're figuring out. Okay, this works best for this. This works best for that, and you're kind of creating your breed formulation. And
Hmm.
the feedback that you're getting from the people that are buying the product, that's essential, bro, throughout that process, right? What are you hearing back from people year 14, year 15, year 16? Like what are some of the things, some of the issues
Uh,
that people have been able to solve and resolve through this product?
just not more or less so seeing, but not more so hearing, but seeing.
Yeah,
People go through cancer and stuff like that, going through chemotherapy and not losing their hair, not losing their appetite, not losing their humanity. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
giving people and myself a reason. You know what I mean? Because this plant, this whole outlook on it's always been, haram, or we would consult it, or
right,
taboo,
negative.
or however you want to say it. But just seeing, yeah, very negative, but just seeing the help it gave out to people. Like one of my very first patients, having her go from using a walker most of her life to walking freely and running again was something that, money can't give you. And seeing it and watching it happen and just feeling the love from the people. My own personal experience with my father-in-law, may Allah rest his soul, before he passed away from cancer,
Blood Hummer.
was giving him that extra time in this world, and watching him go through chemo and watching him keep his hair and keep his appetite and keep his weight up, you know what I mean? And a really friend of Jamila, who also passed away from cancer, you know what I mean? The same thing with her, going through the radiation and the chemo and all these other things, and just finding certain strains that would work with people, you know what I mean? And it's not easy finding a certain strain that can work with anyone or everybody, because like I've been saying for many years now, you've got different strains for different pains. So it was more or less seeing the outcome and the results of the human being itself, achieving the best they can, is what kept me pushing and going and moving forward in my industry. And um, alhamdulillah, like Allah's blessed me with like a green thumb, as we call it in this industry. So,
Sure.
ever since my first trials and errors, it's been a blessing, and I'm just doing it ever since.
So all that, all that criticism kind of just dissipates, bro. If I'm
Hey,
creating, yeah, it really, it's irrelevant.
it is.
If I'm creating a product, and this product is showing, let's just say any product, whatever product it is, and this product is showing promise for people and it's helping people, I start listening to all this criticism as just white noise at that point. Yeah.
It is, and especially when, especially coming from the Muslim community, you know what I mean? Like I started having sheikhs come up to me and ask me about cannabis and stuff like that, and wanting to have more questions that they wanted answered, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
what I do and why I do it and stuff like that. And it became a very interesting thing, my guy, very interesting, you know what I mean? And when people realized and found out what I did, and they found the reason out for why I did what I did, it was kind of like almost overlooked,
Yeah.
and it was almost like okayed in a way.
Yeah.
And just by talking to me, you feel my passion about it and how strong I feel about it. So it kind of took a good turn for itself. And like I said, it just white noised out everything else. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So who, let's take a step back one more time. All right. This is the second time that we're taking a step back. You're Saeed, the brother before you start sci-fi, that person,
Mhm.
the brother
That's right.
that's young, that's going to, junior high school and high school? Who's that guy? Who's that
Oh,
guy?
that guy was just, a fun, happy, loving type of guy. You know what I mean? Just into sports, into activities, into anything any normal high school young man would be into and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you're
Running a shawarma stand.
running a shawarma stand.
Oh yeah, we had one of those. You know what I mean? So we were
Yeah.
one of the first families in Canada, actually, on the West Coast back in '96. First ones to open up a shawarma stand and a falafel stand. So I always grew up in my own kind
Awesome.
of business environment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think sometimes that's almost culturally ingrained. Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So you start this medical marijuana dispensary with a partner. That was 2000 and
No, not a dispensary. It was just production.
was just
Just
production.
medical. We didn't retail anything or sell anything. We did everything under research and development.
I understand. I understand. So what is the status of that now? Is it still under retail? Is still under development, or what is the
I
product
still
now?
My product now is still research and development and consulting. So I try to help other people
I
achieve their
understand.
goals and their dreams and stuff like that, from government facilities to in-house medical facilities to your mom and pop shop and stuff like that. Just trying to give everybody who's got their own medical license an opportunity to kind of skip the trials and errors and just kind of have that sci-fi approved product almost off your first harvest.
I got you. I got you. So the product is not you don't, your business is not a finished product business. What it is,
No,
yeah, I understand. I understand. It's not a retail business.
no,
It's a development business.
exactly.
I
All
understand.
research and development.
I understand. That's very, very interesting. Okay. So what is the current status right now of the Canadian situation in terms of this product line and how it's developing in that industry? What's the industry status right now?
The industry status has moved more towards government legalization and craft shops and stuff like that. So we have what we call micro licensing, where you can have up to 2,500 square foot approved by the government and unlimited plant counts. Or you could become a licensed producer, but that means you got to have some deep pockets. And over the last 5 years, with the whole license producing thing, the LP thing going on, with our government and Health Canada changing their bylaws and codes, you've seen a lot of people, go bankrupt and lose out. And that was more to do with the recreational side versus the medical side.
Right.
So I've always stayed deep into the medical side because I believe in the medical side, and I've always seen what a medical side can do to help a human being. And I've just always believed in it that way versus the recreational. Let's just get high and kick back and whoa 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 type of thing.
For sure. For sure. The medical properties of the product is crazy. I've seen
It
that.
is, man.
Yeah. I think that that's why it got legalized for medical purposes in a lot of states in the United States first. People recognize
Yeah,
the
definitely.
benefits of it. So I don't know if you heard the news. A couple of days after I spoke to you and got you on an episode here, New Jersey just legalized
What?
process. I don't know if that hit you or not, but yeah,
No.
yeah. So that happened 2 days ago. New Jersey voted to legalize the recreational use of cannabis. I believe that's the way the law was written. You know cannabis laws. It's not as clear cut. There's a
No.
lot of gray area, right?
Very.
Yeah, so it was a big move for New Jersey, definitely. I don't know all the details of the law because I'm not well versed on it, but I know that we're moving in that direction as a state, right?
Nice.
So when you hear about that, you know that there are people that are going to be business minded, that are opportunistic, that are going to jump into this industry and try to maximize or monetize that,
Mhm.
right? What advice would you give them, knowing everything that you know and the amount of knowledge that you've accrued? Man, 2012 to 2020, that's almost 10 years. As a decade of knowledge.
Yeah, man.
What would you tell people like that? Somebody's listening, somebody's watching right now, and they're like, listen, and Jay just got
Do your homework. No, man.
homework.
Do your homework, right? Like, just don't jump into it because someone's got a space or an idea. Like, know what you're about to get yourself into. You know what I mean? Because like I said in the beginning, it's just not as easy as popping a plant into a pot and just letting it do its thing. Like
Yeah.
as a grower myself, I've gone through multiple situations where, for instance, your AC will blow on you and your room gets too hot and your plants get stressed out and you get, a bud rot or a stem rot, or, you get an infection in your room and you get spider mites. So make sure you do your homework and understand who you're about to work with and what kind of knowledge they've got before you just jump into bed with someone and just dump your life savings into it. Because,
Sure.
this whole industry can either make you or break you. And if you're going to be doing it and trying to monetize and capitalize on it, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? Because I see out here in my own country, in my own province, like my own state, I've seen a lot of companies go under because they textbook growers, as we call it. They ain't got that real hands-on quality. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going off a book. You're bound to go through your own trials and tribulations. So I would say do your research, do your knowledge, find out what kind of things you want to really work with and work on if you're going to be growing or dispensing or distributing in whatever ways. Make sure you have something that's quality and make sure that you know what you're about to get yourself into, because man, like it's a regular job, man. It's like a 9 to 5, and sometimes it's like a 9 to 9. And you're in your facility, you're in your place, and you're retrofitting or you're rebuilding or you're building from bottom up, and it's not easy.
No, I bet.
It's long hours, and alhamdulillah, I've got a 10-year-old dog. I got 3 kids, so I've got a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 18-month-old, and I barely got to see my 10-year-old grow up.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
I spent so much time away from home, traveling across the country, different conventions, different venues and stuff like that, just trying to get myself out there and get my name out there and stuff like that, you can take a lot out of yourself, you know what I mean? And you take a lot out of your family and stuff like that. So just be cautious on what you're about to jump into, especially if you're about to use your life savings or whatnot to try to get into this industry because it's been legalized or whatnot in the state or the country that you're in and stuff.
So the thing that I gathered by you speaking was that this industry is it's such a diverse industry that being a consultant, understanding the strains, right? That's a business in itself.
Yeah.
Distributing is a business in itself. Growing is a business in itself. And just based on the research that I did, which is limited, the derivative side of it is also a business by itself. So you really have to understand where you're going to sit on the spectrum.
Where you're going to fit in.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know what I mean? Like for me, like it was a blessing. Like I've been able to, so far, been able to handle everything, but it's all because of my own learning experiences and me wanting to be out there doing everything, So it wasn't easy because being a producer on its own and, marketing and branding, network building and stuff like that. It's done me in, no lie.
Yeah. So you say you hit some of these conventions and you network with these people, right? Mm-hmm. Give me an example of somebody that would reach out to you, like a potential client that would reach out to you personally and say, Mr. Sai Fai Saeed, I need your services. Give me an example of that.
It's pretty much by seeing your finished product. You know what I mean? So I would get a lot of business by people seeing what I could produce at the end of my days and stuff like that, and how I got it to be like this. And
the size, the fruit, like specific.
Pretty, just the quality, the texture, the as we call in the industry, the terpenes, so the smell of it, and the flavonoids, the flavor of it, and the texture of it. Because you get this fluffy looking weed, ain't no one want it. You got to have this rock nug that you can drop on the ground and almost sounds like a quarter hitting the ground type of thing. What I mean?
So that density, aroma, like these are the details of what the quality of the product is.
Exactly.
Density, aroma, flavor, right? What are some of the other ways that a novice would look at a product and say, this is a great product, this is not a great product?
by burning it, testing it, you know what I mean? Because looks can be deceiving too, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I've seen a lot of product over my years that look phenomenal, but burn as black as that microphone right there versus as black as white as your string on your shirt, you know what I mean? And that's what any medical consumer wants, is something that's high grade, as we call it, or super loud, or whatever terms you want to use. And the
Sure.
texture, how it feels. You don't want something that squishes right down and stays down. You want to see some bounce back up in it, or you want to be able to barely push down on it, and something totally caked out, as we call it. So it's just iced out with trichomes and whatnot.
So you go to these conventions and you display, and based
Yeah.
on the yield that you display, people walk up, they're like, what is this guy doing differently?
Yeah, so pretty much, you know what I mean? They see your product and they see the different strains you've created and whatnot, or some of the generic strains that you've mastered. And, then you get labeled as a master grower and stuff like that. It really helps out. And just by displaying your flowers out there, man, and people who were in the industry, whether they were vending or personally using or into government distribution and stuff like that, would come and like try to pick you up and stuff like that, and either try to have you on their team and whatnot. And it's been a trip, man. It's like I've been out to Jamaica a couple of times helping facilities out there and
Crazy.
across Canada and stuff like that. So my talent's really been able to speak on itself.
It's crazy. And you would say you would consider yourself a specialist in the strain development side of things.
Strain development and growing side of it, stuff like that. So
the growing and the strain side of it. I got you. Very, very interesting, man. I'm not I'm not well versed on the subject. I'm not. But I know that the industry is controversial and there's a lot there. And I feel like that people right now, there's a lot of misinformation. People just don't really know a lot, and they make judgment calls based on what they think they know versus what the reality of it is.
Oh, that's very true.
Yeah. And also when the product is, when I hear things like this product, I'm in a lot of pain and this product helps me in my life. This is something that a reasonable person has to stop and think about.
Definitely.
What the benefits are to people.
Definitely. Yeah. It's like I always tell people, right? Like, this plant wasn't created by man. This was a God-given plant. You know what I mean? It was put on this earth for a reason.
Yeah.
And I always explain to people, it's just like the pharmaceutical medicine you have to medicines like this. You can either use it or abuse it. And you know what I mean? And when you're using it for your own medical reasons and stuff like that, you got to understand the personal benefits you get from it. And, like I always tell people, man didn't create this drug or this plant or however you want to label it as. Like, this was a God-given thing. You know what I mean? It goes from our earth, and it's been here, maybe before mankind. Who knows? That's another subject and stuff like that. But it's just about, understanding it, and different strains from different continents and different parts of the world. They all grow different. They all work different, and it's a trip.
So your research, your development, your business, your craft, it took you out to Jamaica. There's a big culture of the use of this product for a long time in Jamaica. Was there anything that you took away from that scenario?
Oh man, I actually gained a lot from there. You know what I mean? Understanding.
Yeah, sure. Can you speak on some of that?
Yeah, like for instance, when I went out there, you know what I mean? I just thought as myself, taking my knowledge out there would have been, truly ultimately useful, but not understanding, for instance, the environment I'm walking into. You know what I mean? I'm going in from an indoor facility where I'm mimicking sunlight and winds and all that stuff into a natural place where I've got sunlight 12 and 12, which for a gardener like myself, that's what you use to flip your flower. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is amazing. Like, you're on flower season all year long and stuff like that. And then it came down to how could I help people with their vegetation, get 18 hours of sunlight out of 12 hours of sunlight, understanding that bringing my, having my strains out there and stuff like that, the climatization that these plants would have to take, these seeds would have to take, that it wasn't going to pop off over the first time and stuff like that. And these plants had to get used to a different culture and stuff like that. And
they had to acclimate to the environment.
straight up, man, like
Yeah.
very much so, like, and it's just amazing out there, like some of the cannabis that I seen from some of the local natural growers out there just blew my mind away, because they don't use nutrients like we use across the country and stuff like that. They're really into like natural things, and their medium, so like their dirt is so rich in nutrients and organics and stuff like that. That's God-given right there, you know what I mean? It's like you don't really have to do much to get much. And it was good, man, because when I went out there bringing some of my knowledge and working with the other growers out there and stuff like that, and pound for pound in it, and man, it was great. And to see the outcome of some of the companies out there that are doing it, and it's just blessings.
There's a definite difference, just like any other plant, between growing something indoors in an environment where you're trying to replicate God's gifts, like dirt,
Exactly.
climate, sun, hours of sunlight, right?
All that.
Versus putting it in a warehouse, and there's a difference. And you have to work around those parameters when you're in a different climate. I mean, you're in Vancouver, so Vancouver, the weather's nice. I mean,
It's chill, man.
Yeah.
We've got a good place. Like that's why I've always loved, growing cannabis out in British Columbia, because we've got a nice geography layout. We got nice weather, got some fresh air, mountain air, seawater, and stuff like that. And it all depends on where on the West Coast you're located and stuff like that. Because I've got brothers who are 5-6 hours away that grow some of the same strains as I do, but they come out totally different. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about how your life transpired in terms of explaining this product. You do that really well, of really educating people on what the health benefits are, what the medical benefits are of this product, and how the business is moving for you. What's next for you? What's next for this? Do you plan on being a retail operation or not really?
No, I do have plans on it eventually, but I've been just dealing with some like personal health issues right now, and I'm just trying to jump back onto myself right now and give myself that time back to get back in it. But I'm always open for an opportunity and a way in. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like today I was just out looking at some places like that on a consulting gig right now, and everyone just got their own ideas and their own minds made. But eventually down the road, I wouldn't mind getting into more retail sides of things. But I've been focusing more on my health for the last 6 months, and kind of taking a step back from everything and just working close with a few people and stuff like that, and making sure their operations and stuff like that stay afloat.
I seen that you posted something the other day about your health. Yeah. And when we spoke on it briefly over the phone. Yeah, I wish everything, and I hope everything works out for you in that area, man. I know. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, there's no such thing as wealth without health, right?
No, straight up.
Yeah,
there isn't.
So
sorry there.
No, all good. Is there anything you want to add to the conversation in terms of the things that we spoke on, the industry as a whole, the derivative side of it? Is there anything on that side that you see that is moving in a very positive or negative way, right? Because I feel like, again, on my very, very brief amount of research that I've done, I don't know a whole lot about this industry. The derivative side of it seems to me like it's really, really big. So
it is.
It's very, very big because it's a controllable product, and once you extract that THC, or is that correct? That's what they're looking to extract. The THC.
It's CBD, THC, CBN. So there's like so many things that we've always talked and known about THC, but throughout legalization and research and development, you start finding out about different cannabinoids like CBN, CBG, CBN, CBCs, and stuff like that. Like all have different aspects to the medical plant. So, my advice would be just do your research and knowledge on what you want to do, and understand what you're about to get yourself into. And it's a lucrative business, no matter which way you look at it, is producing, brokering, retailing, distributing, and having contracts with the government and stuff like that, because it's very important to stay within the laws and the boundaries of everything.
You need to understand it completely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Absolutely. And even if you don't understand it completely, just having a good understanding of it, you know what I mean? Because like the laws are always going to change. health, Health Canada for me in my country, like, is always coming up with new solutions and whatnot, and new plans and outlooks and stuff like that. So
why? I've read a few articles on the derivatives and the strength of these derivatives, right? Like people eating a bag of gummy bears and then they're losing their mind. What is that?
yeah,
Are they really that potent and that strong?
well, yeah, it's the thing. Like, when you eat an edible, it doesn't kick in right away. You know what I mean? Sometimes them gummy bears and them cookies just taste so fucking good. Excuse my language. You just want to eat them. You know what I mean? For the sake of eating them. So next thing you know, from smoking it to eating it, like smoking it gives you almost an insta effect. You know what I mean? Where
the way that your body absorbs it.
Yeah, it's maybe after 2 puffs, you can be like, yo, I'm good.
Yeah.
But you eat 2 gummies and you're like, oh shit, it's like an hour. I haven't felt anything. Then you pop another 2. You kind of what we call in the community, you greened out. You know what I mean? Where all of a sudden it hits your bloodstream, and versus the smoke versus the hitting your bloodstream a lot quicker. You got these edibles that sit in your stomach and hit everything else, man. Like, you got to be very, very, very cautious on what you intake and how you intake it and how much you intake and stuff like that, because it kind of throws people on or off, you know what I mean? And especially someone who doesn't really medicate too much and they start using it, it's going to turn them off, or they green out and they just don't have a good time.
Sure, absolutely. There's not an intended effect, right? So
yeah, exactly.
My biggest retail experience with this industry was when I was in Vegas. I go to like shows every year for manufacturing, for apparel, for everything. And I go to these shows and I'm seeing like buses ride by with like MedMen, MED, and all these other companies. And there's like, it's crazy the amount of retail distribution that there is out there. It's really become like a full-blown industry, and there's full-scale facilities like security, like everything. Like, it is insane, and the amount of creative, innovative solutions for people to experience the product without taking the product or stealing the product or whatever the case may be. Like, they had things in the counters, bro, where you can smell the product without touching it, where it had like no vents in it, and you just kind of move the thing. I'm looking at this like, wow, this is insane, bro. Like, how much thought and effort goes into it. There's stores by some of these companies that they literally look like Apple stores. The amount of money that they're putting into it.
I'm telling you.
So who are these? These are private investors. They're private equity firm. Like, who's dumping all this money into these industries?
Investors, man. That's what it comes down to mainly, is just investors. You know what I mean? People that want to be in the industry, turn their dollar into 10 type of thing, and understanding that, not everybody has deep pockets to start a facility, like how you spoke about security and stuff like that. And like, these cost millions and millions of dollars and stuff like that, right? So you have different groups, investment groups, people, individuals or whatnot, and firms and stuff like that all jump in on it. And you have some that are into marketing, into retail, it's like how you said, the Apple store layout and stuff like that, and how they got everything viewed out and displayed out there and stuff like that. It's a team effort, you know what I mean?
Sure. They really understand the retail aspect of what it is that they're doing. So for those of you that are watching that just tuned in, this is a good friend of mine, Saeed. The name of his company is Sai Fai Saeed. If they want to check you out, they want to look at what it is that you do, they want to follow your story personally. This is a very interesting one. I do. Where can they find you exactly?
You guys can find me on Instagram. It's pretty much how I've taken it.
What's that handle?
It's SAI Sai_Fi_420. So SAI_FI_420.
We'll add that in our description section of the video and the podcast. Very, very interesting, brother. I learned a lot from you. I didn't really understand the business model in itself, but I got a better picture now. It's very diverse.
Oh, yeah. It's a team effort, man. It's a team effort, definitely.
Insane. Thank you so much for being on here, man. I really appreciate and respect the fact that you came on here and shared your story. I'm gonna be looking out for you. God willing, everything goes right with the health situation. All right, we're praying for you, and just keep doing. Yeah, and it seems like your heart and your mind is settled. Just keep doing your thing.
It is.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
You made me a fan.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys having me on and stuff like that. And it's not like I always tell people when it comes to support, man, you can do support via charity or via greed. And like how I've always done my work with all my family and friends and support on charity levels, you know what I mean? By posting something or giving a brother something, a strain name, like one of our mutual brothers, I've given them all my strains, like the TTOGs, the TTMKs, you know what I mean? Sure. And those TTs stand for our brother Tone Trump, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Just trying to make sure that, shout out to our brother Tone Trump.
Shout out to brother Tone Trump. He's going to be on here, by the way.
Alhamdulillah.
On one of the episodes. Yeah. Shout out to the brother Tone Trump. He's very, very well networked in the Muslim community. The guy just has very, very long reach. I mean, he pretty much represents a lot of the Muslim community online, man. He really does.
Oh, man. He really does, man. Yeah, he does it with such honor and blessings, man. Like,
sure.
I mean, very proud to have that man as my brother, as my business partner, as my mentor and everything in my life. So
for sure. Shout out to the brother Tone Trump for sure. So if you guys are watching, this is another episode of the Hustleman show. I got my man Sai Fai, my man Saeed out here. Very, very interesting story. If you guys are interested in listening to the audio experience, there's going to be 2 links below for SoundCloud and Spotify. If you want to watch the video experience, make sure you hit that link for YouTube. If you like what we're doing, make sure you tap that subscribe button, tap that notification bell. And as always, business is always personal. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Hustleman Show. Make sure you click that subscribe button, tap that bell. For the audio experience to Spotify and SoundCloud, links are below. To follow us on Instagram and Twitter, it's @CapSwagUSA. Remember, business is always personal.